Well, I did it. I completed a short Brutii campaign, and now I'm ready to tell you what I think about Total War Rome Remastered. Let's go, Wanderers! So I'm just going to cut straight to the chase. Do I like this game? Yes, I do. I like it a lot. Is it perfect? No, it isn't. But so wasn't the original game. And that's not me excusing that any problem this game has is, but the original game was like that, so you have to be like, no, I'm not saying that. Of course, we can improve some things, make it more modern. But what I'm trying to say is, I'm giving a testament to the Feral developers, saying they took a rough diamond, carbon copied it, modernized it while keeping the spirit the same, and that's what we have today. And some of you might think, oh, that's easy, just take the game and just copy it and make it look better. So easy. It's not. So really need to commend Feral for their achievement with this game. However, I do have a few suggestions for improvement that I will outline in this video. So from that, you should have the general vibe of this video and where it's heading. Now I'm talking about how I'm formatting this review. I'm going to be starting with the general strengths and weaknesses and how they may pertain to you, whether you're a Total War veteran or you're a Total War veteran from the late era, Rome 2, Warhammer, Three Kingdoms, or if you're both an early and late Total War veteran, and if you are a newcomer to the Total War series. Then I'm going to be talking about the campaign map and the strategy involved, as well as the battles, and I'll be talking about those separately in detail. Finally, I'll give a summary of my review. So we're starting off with general strengths and weaknesses, and the first part of that is performance. Now, to be able to talk about performance realistically, I'm going to show you my rig straight away. That's the base point we're going with here before we get into anything. Obviously, everyone's rig is different, so you may have different opinions on this, but this is my general opinion from my rig. And with saying that, I'm saying the performance is great. Whether it was on the campaign map or the battle map, everything ran smoothly. I never had any FPS drops, it never affected the way I play the game, so overall, I'm very satisfied. In terms of bugs, I do remember some graphical glitches, but they were so few and so short-lived that it's hard to go through my footage and find them. So that's a testament to how rare they are to see in the game. In terms of game-breaking bugs, I did have one crash, and it's when I was sank inside my own port, and the game didn't like that. So yes, I did have to load my game up again because of that one crash, and I had to go back to an autosave. So keep in mind there might be a crash here or there. Another negative that I had with the performance is, like I said before, campaign map, no issues. Battle map, no issues. But going between the two, the wait seems a bit longer than it should be. Now, I know this is only down to a few seconds, but when you go from the campaign map to the battle map in quick succession, yeah, it feels like it's dragging on a bit. So overall, performance is great. It's only a few minor things that are holding it back from saying it's perfect. So in terms of performance, there's not much to say pertaining to your gaming background, whether you're old Total War fan, new Total War fan, or a newcomer, because it all depends on your rig. Just check the minimum requirements and compare it to your rig. That's all I can say. So that's the performance out of the way. Now I'm going to be talking about the graphics. Now, again, they're great. Some of the highlights for me, the settlements have been really well done. I like the attention to detail and are making them a lot more authentic. And then the battle maps and general landscaping of them is really good, because they don't distract from the battle. They're really easy on the eye. And then the units, most of them are really good, and they look like an improvement of their former selves in the original game. Finally, almost all of the graphics almost all, seems faithful to the original game, just like I said with the units. And that's really important, because if the graphics look radically different, then you might as well make a new game, because that's what the remaster is supposed to be. It's supposed to be giving you the same atmosphere and same feeling of the original game, and graphics play a huge part of that. Now on to the negative aspects of the graphics. You heard me just say that most of the units look great, and they do, but some of them don't. Some look less than great, and this is purely an opinion based on taste, so some of you will agree with me, some of you won't, and some will just won't care about this. But the one unit that sticks out to me that doesn't look very good is the early period workhorse unit of the Roman factions, the Hastati. I don't think it looks very good, and I'm going to tell you why. The reason for me why the Hastati don't look so good compared to the original game is because of the really orangey bronze helmet and breastplate they now have. I'm sure if you polish bronze a lot in real life, it would look this orange and shiny, but for me the colours clash too much, and it's really noticeable now, when before they melded together a bit better. So yeah, you're welcome to disagree with me, but that's just my general feeling of why the Hastati don't look as good now. But one aspect that we can all agree on is the fact that maybe Feral's dropped the ball with a unit here or there, and maybe they need a revisit in mod form, because I know Feral will never admit they've done a bad job in graphic wise, but yeah, hopefully in mod form we can get a few alterations to our favourite units. Now, you also heard me say before, almost all parts of the graphics are faithful to the game. And yes, almost all of them are. The one big one for me that isn't is the campaign map. It's just the colouring. I don't like it. It didn't fill me with nostalgia, the colouring. It definitely feels completely new in that aspect. So, I don't know. Hopefully someone can come along with a mod and change that a little bit and make it feel more like the original game. Again, I just want to stress, if you like the campaign map and think that it does look faithful to the original game, don't worry, I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just saying what I feel. Now to summarise with the graphics, like I said, overall they're great. If you're an old Total War fan, especially coming from Rome Total War, you're going to be satisfied. There are going to be a few things that annoy you, but they're going to be so few in number, you're not going to care about it. You're going to be satisfied with the product you bought. If you're a new Total War fan, especially coming from Warhammer, you're probably going to think the graphics are rather bland, and you're probably going to be wondering, how was this game even considered good in the first place? But hey, we love this game, leave it alone. But you also might be feeling, oh, this is quite refreshing, having a Total War game that has been more simplified in its graphics and more to the point, not so flowery and overdone. And if you're a newcomer, it's going to look like any modern game that you see out on the market. It's going to satisfy that need as well. Okay, moving on now, we're going to be talking about the sound of the game. For the sound, it's pretty simple. Did you like the sound effects from the original Total War? And do you like HD sound effects? Well, I've got very good news for you, because this game has both. Don't worry, the campaign map is the same deal. And the menus.
At your service, counter spying.
Set sail!
Now, the only issue with sound that I encountered was after a certain event occurred. I believe it was that Macedonia. I destroyed Macedonia, and it suddenly just started looping one track over and over again, and it got quite annoying. So I don't know if it was a glitch. It felt more like design, because obviously they were trying to signify that this turn something significant had taken place. But yeah, it got kind of annoying, and it sort of threw me out in the immersion. In summary for sound, if you're an old Total War fan, especially coming from Rome Total War, you're most likely to be satisfied because it's the same old sound, same old music, except in HD. If you're new to Total War, or new to Rome Total War and familiar with other Total War games, you're also most likely to be satisfied because when this game was originally released in 2004, its music won a BAFTA, and that quality is throughout the game. On top of that, now it's in HD, it's in step with other modern games. Now finally, in the general category, I'm going to be talking about gameplay. So, talking about gameplay here, I'm going to be trying to avoid going into too much detail because in the next two sections of the video, I'm going to go into a lot more detail. So I'm just going to be exploring its basic form and how it may pertain to you depending on your gaming background. So the basics. Total War Rome Remastered is a turn-based strategy game with real-time battles intermixed. The goal of the gameplay is at the start of your campaign, you're set a certain amount of provinces that you need to conquer, and you need to use your armies and navies to go conquer settlements and destroy armies because other rival factions have the same goal as you, and therefore you need to defend against them. All while this is going on, you have to properly manage your empire by ensuring that your settlements are well protected and are happy, because if you don't protect them or don't keep them happy, you will lose them and you won't be making progress towards the end goal. On top of that, you also need to make sure that your finances for your entire empire stays afloat, because if you have no money, you can't do anything. Now, does the gameplay make achieving those goals fun? Yes, it does, because not only does it give you the choice of how to do it, it also gives you the choice of where to do it and why to do it. Now on the campaign map, of course, armies are the main way of achieving that goal. However, you can also use agents that include assassins, diplomats, spies, and merchants, and they can help you achieve that goal, and that makes when you use them, makes your strategy feel a lot more rewarding and therefore more fun to play. In terms of battle gameplay, yes, every faction has its strengths and weaknesses, but you can make the army how you want it. If you want to have a challenge like, oh, maybe you want to play Parthia, who's famed for their horse archers and don't want to play with their horse archers at all, just make all the armies be infantry. You can do that if you want, and that also feels rewarding because you can set yourself your own challenges. Now, where you achieve that goal, and by that I mean where do you expand your empire, all depends on you. The game does give you heavy suggestions of where to do it because it gives you missions, which for non-Roman factions are less important. Of course they help you, but less important, and for Roman factions a bit more important because of the Senate feature. But anyway, yes, it gives you suggestions, but you can expand wherever you want. You could play the Brutii, and the Brutii are heavily suggested to go into Greece. Maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to go into North Africa with Carthage. Maybe you want to go up into North Italy and into France and fight the Gauls. You decide where you want to expand. The campaign is up to you, not the game. And finally, why? Why should you expand into certain areas of the game to achieve the goal? Well, the game provides many opportunity costs and rewards as well. For example, playing as Brutii, expanding into Greece. Yes, the Greek factions are fairly strong and have fairly strong armies. However, the opportunity reward is that all their settlements are fairly strong and are already fairly developed, therefore gaining you more finance to expand into other areas. On the flip side, if you were playing the Brutii and went into Carthage, you would have an easier time expanding, because settlements are wider apart and therefore defense of them is harder for those factions that are in North Africa, such as Carthage and Numidia. Therefore it's easy going. However, because they're so far apart, it takes longer and the settlements aren't as well developed as the Greek ones. So you have to weigh that up. And weighing that up and making that choice is what is rewarding, because you feel like you're the one developing the strategy for your nation and not just following a set campaign that is the same every single time. And you can play the game in quite a roleplay way and still be rewarded for that. For example, you could play as the Greek city-states and decide you're only going to take over former Greek colonies and cities around the Mediterranean. And you would be rewarded for that because towns and cities with Greek buildings will develop quicker under you than those that don't have them. While the gameplay does give you many choices, the main weakness with the gameplay is the end game. The end game is generally where you'll be the strongest faction in the game, and it's just going to feel like a war of attrition where you're just repeatedly destroying armies over and over again just to get to that end goal. Now, the game does try to alleviate that with global events. For example, you'll have volcanoes and earthquakes and diseases that will provide challenges throughout the gameplay. You also get faction-based events. For example, the Roman factions have an event called the Marian Reform, where the whole army is updated into the legionaries that we all know and love. However, this may still not feel enough for some people who feel the end game is still not fun enough even with these events. And I understand that. And for some people, they may not be even interested in world domination. They just want to play the gameplay in a short time. Well, I've got good news for you. The game does provide a short and long campaign. Long campaign, I believe you have to conquer 50 settlements, while with the short campaign, you only have to conquer 15 and destroy 2 factions. And the short campaign is what I recommend if you don't enjoy the sound of the end game, because you get to enjoy all the positive parts of the gameplay without running into that attrition too much. Now, as you might have guessed, this game is mostly single player, but there is a multiplayer option. You can play multiplayer battles, but yes, that's what it's limited to. At the moment, there is no multiplayer campaign. Okay, now I'm going to be talking about how the gameplay may pertain to you depending on your gaming background. If you're new to the Total War series, but have a general interest in strategy, I think you're going to enjoy this game because it's one of the most open-ended strategy games you can get. And all I would recommend is that you play the short campaign so you don't get too burnt out playing one faction. Play the short campaigns for a few factions and get a feel for how they play differently, and I feel you'll get a lot more rewarding experience. Now, if you're familiar with Total War games but just not Rome Total War or some of the older Total War titles, I think you will enjoy this game. The campaign map is a lot simpler and less bells and whistles. However, I feel you may feel the battles are fairly tame because you don't have those extra features and they do go a bit slower. But it all comes down to taste there. I enjoy the fact it's slower, some people won't. Now, for old fans of Rome Total War, it's a mixture of high and lows. I'll start with the highs. Does the game feel like it did back in 2004 and play exactly the same way? Yes, it does. And with more because of the new features that Feral have added in. And the best thing is, because of the toggle feature, you can turn them all off if you don't want any of that and just want to play the base game with HD graphics. Great. Now with the lows. It's the same game with the same problems. Pretty much. Yes, they've tried to alleviate some of them with new battle AI and new campaign AI, but there's still the same issues, and this makes this game extremely easy. I'm going to explain why it's easy. And I'm going to be doing that by going through the campaign map strategy and through the battle map strategy in the next 2 sections. So with the campaign map, I've already talked about the graphics, I've talked about the sound, so that's done. I'm going to go from good things to bad things. And first up is the UI. The UI, I quite like it. At first, I was thinking, oh, maybe it's a bit too small for me. And then I found there is a UI scaling system in the options. So it's all good. It's fairly easy to use. I've got no big gripes with it. I'm sure someone in another video will say, oh, this is a bit silly, or maybe this should be different, but nothing stood out going, oh, this is bad, or I don't like it, or anything like that. Now moving on to diplomacy. Diplomacy is better, a lot better. the AI actually makes decent deals, and they're not going around making silly ones, and they're actually quite mischievous on the campaign map. Yes, they'll make a peace deal, but that doesn't mean they're not going to come straight back at you at the next turn. So yeah, I quite like the diplomacy now. It's not as stupid. I mean, Macedonia did backstab me, but I would say that's pretty fair, because I basically took all the provinces that are open in Greece, and they were not happy about that because they've lost all their avenues for expansion. Oh, and then I moved into their land as well, which kind of pissed them off. Then we have the cool map overlays, and yeah, they're cool, but I have to say I didn't use them much. I just didn't use them. I felt I had no need to use them. Now, that may be more for me, but that's the long or the short of it. I didn't use them much. Moving on to agents. Agents are pretty much the same, apart from that we have the merchant. And this is one where I wouldn't say it's bad, I wouldn't say it's good, but the addition of the merchant is, yeah, to me, I was excited for it, and I have to say, didn't really make that much of a difference. And the next point why I will explain that, but yeah, they sort of, I thought it was gonna be a big splash when they hit the game, but no, it's just a little drop, boop, like that. No big difference to the gameplay, unfortunately. And now I'm going to explain why. The economy. The economy is what makes the merchants kind of pointless, because the economy is already OP, so you don't need any more money. So the whole point of the merchant is made mute, because, well, I've got 90,000 in the bank. Why do I care about what? Even plus 100 gold per turn. It's ridiculous. And I was literally just building buildings left, right and centre. I didn't care what I built because I had so much money. And I have to say, I do not remember that in the old games. I do remember I had to make choices about what I built very carefully. And now it's just, yeah, just build what you want. You've got enough money to do that. So overall, the campaign map is improved. It's got a better UI. It's got better diplomacy. It's got those nice map overlays. It's got more agents, which is cool. But yeah, the economy is really holding it back, because if you're completely bankrolled, it really just makes the game a walk in the park. And maybe that's why I didn't need to use all the features, because it just become a rush campaign because I had so much money. It was just a case of how many armies can I recruit and just take over the world. I don't know, but the economy really does wreck the challenge of the game, and without a challenge it's not that fun. Now let's go into more detail with the battle gameplay. Now battles, where to start with them? I think I'm just glad to be playing battles like these in HD, where you can actually see the battle line shift and the units clash together nicely. All good fun. And because of the strong colours, I can actually see what's going on. Unlike Rome 2, in one of my previous videos, I said it was hard to see what was going on. But with these battles, I do get time to zoom in. I do get time to look at the battle lines and admire them. I'm just glad it's back. Now just quickly about the battle UI. It is good. I have no major issues with it. But for some reason they decided to change what the buttons look like. I'm just like, why? Why did they have to do that? Did someone really have the phalanx, the image of the phalanx button trademarked? You know, like, why have they changed the buttons what they look like? Just keep the same buttons, just change where they are on the screen. I can learn where they are on the screen, no problem. But to relearn a whole new image when the game looks so similar to the previous one, yeah, it's a little off-putting, but I'll get used to it. It's not nowhere near as bad as Rome 2, because I can actually see what the unit cards mean. I can actually understand them. And also, I quite like the little circles you get above each unit. They're fairly easy to read now, and they do give useful information. Now on to these supposed improvements. Let's go over the AI. The AI is better. It knows how to form a formation, sort of. But if you put any units around the back, they just get in such a mess. They get in such a mess because they have no idea what to do. And even on the attack, the AI is so defensive. So defensive. It's smart in the sense that it will get itself against the battlefield boundary and defend against it. Yeah, that's smart. It stops me flanking. But it gets sort of tiresome when they do it every single battle. Now, as we're talking about cavalry, let's also talk about the unit balance. Infantry, the balance is really good because Gauls or barbarian units in general seem to have got a huge buff and actually made them quite terrifying units now. I remember before they were sort of a joke, but now the barbarian factions, you know, apart from their strong units like the berserkers and stuff, are a force to be reckoned with. But, and it's a big but, Cav across the board seems to have got a major buff. It could be just me having rose tinted glasses, but I don't remember the Cav being this OP. Well, I think it's a mixture of the AI doesn't know how to use Cav and it's got a buff, because I can just win every single battle with the Cav. If I don't have Cav, it's going to be a tough battle. But with Cav, it's a walk in the park, because the AI just sits its Cav stationary and will only charge at the last minute, while you can charge all your Cav into theirs and you'll rout them. And without their Cav, the AI is pretty much defenseless. Pretty much defenseless. I can win pretty much any battle with my Cav. And so it really makes it rather historical, because the Roman Cav should suck. It should suck really badly, and that's why they relied on heavy infantry so much. That's what should force you to get more barrackses, so you can get better heavy infantry. But I don't need them. I just need one Hastati to hold the unit, and I need all my Equites to just run into the back of them. It's frustrating, because apparently you got this unit balancing and it seems to have made it worse. Before I summarise, quickly on sieges, yes, they've got issues. Yes, the pathfinding is crap, but I sort of fucked up by using ultra-sized units, and I realise it's pretty much hard-coded into the game. So I'm more forgiving about this, because unit balancing and AI can be fixed with a few patches. So with the battles, are they as good as they were before? Yes, they are. Have they got any better? No. I'm going to say that. No, they have not got better than they were before. And I think that's something that Feral needs to work on. Right. So we've gone through all the basic features of the game. We've gone through the campaign map. We've gone through the battles. Now it's time for the summary and the part you've been waiting for. What's my rating for Total War Rome Remastered? I'm giving this game an 8 out of 10. Because as a modern game and as a piece of fan service to us old Rome Total War fans, it is above average and it is a good achievement. But there are some things that rose-tinted glasses and nostalgia cannot overlook. And the poor balancing of the economy and the poor balancing of the Cav units and just unit balancing in general cannot be excused. And it just needs extra work to make it into a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. But I'm still enjoying it. I'm still going to do videos. I'm still going to play it. So it's not a bad game by any sense of the measure. But it just needs some extra work. And I think I do have some suggestions that I could go through. Firstly, let's have a serious rework of the economy. Come on. I don't need my hand held like this, or at least offer higher difficulty, because at the moment the economy is too easy. It's too easy to just absolutely get bankrolled, and it's putting all those cool little features to waste, because why do the merchant game when I'm already getting 20,000 per turn? Secondly, Roman cavalry should not be this OP. We need a reason to construct better barracks, because at the moment, Hastati is good enough for pretty much any battle, because the AI cannot defend against flanking cavalry of any quality whatsoever. Yeah, so the Cav needs a debuff, especially the Roman Cav, to make it a bit more historical. And thirdly, let's get any sort of multiplayer campaign going, whether it's hot seat with online battles or a fully fledged multiplayer campaign that's real time. Because with battles, if you want a bigger challenge, you go play multiplayer battles. You can play against real humans. What do we have for campaign? Nothing whatsoever. We have to be satisfied until we get mods. Speaking about mods, so I've said this game is 8 out of 10, and it is the base game anyway. But, and it's a big but, this game will be 10 out of 10 in less than a year. Yes, you heard me, less than a year. Because I've seen in the last 3 days, we've already had a mod that's introduced naval combat into the game. That is insane. Less than 3 days or thereabouts. I mean, time's starting to blow already because it's going so quickly. I have complete faith in this community, whether it's providing quality videos or quality mods to improve the quality of the game overall, that we will have a 10 out of 10 game in less than a year. So, do I think it's worth the price tag? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. If the base game was unmoddable, I would say maybe wait for a sale. But because of the mods that are going to be happening and the way that you're going to be able to interact with the community with the game, I think it's worth its price tag.
And yes, I will be doing a whole separate video about my Brutii short campaign. So just watch this space for the next couple of days, it'll be up. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and post a comment about whether you think this game is worth its price tag, whether you agree or disagree with what I've said, both are okay, and maybe do a mini review on what you think of the remaster. Apart from that, see you on out, Wanderers.